Hello, good afternoon. Some years ago, during a sustainable development class, my classmates and I were given an assignment to choose between two building systems for a house. One whose impact would be negative on the owner's daughter's asthma and positive to the environment, and another one that would be positive to the daughter's asthma but negative to the environment. The ethical and practical implications of choosing between health and environment troubled me, and I thought a third system was missing, one whose impact would be positive on both. And that's what I proposed. But the question stayed with me. Little I knew that shortly after, I would have to test my ability to immerse myself into that third system that I talked about in my assignment in order to save my life. This is the story of how I became an environmentalist for my own personal environment in order to save my life. Since my childhood days in Peru, my health was always a struggle between chronic pain, inexplicable food rejections, and cognitive problems. And with my coming to Sydney 3.5 years ago, things didn't get better. With no apparent medical explanation, my body and brain were shutting down, and I became so sick that I lost my capacity to function normally. Pain became so unbearable, I would spend weeks in bed, and I became so weak I couldn't stay awake for more than 7 hours at a time. I was getting lost in the streets, unable to find my way back home, and even forgetting in which city I was living in. Being an architect, losing my capacity to understand numbers and to solve simple math problems was emotionally devastating. I even lost my ability to draw. It got so bad that at times I couldn't recognize friends or family's faces, which became very stressful when meeting someone in a cafe, for example. Although I have to say, the easiest person was my husband. His smile when meeting me was always so big, I couldn't have made a mistake with him. I reached the point of being only a couple of days a month fully aware of the world around me. And despite everything, I had kept myself active because I loved my life. And I wasn't ready to give it all up. I had moved to a paradise beach. I had a great job. I had gone back to study. And I fell in love with this wonderful man. I was so happy. I decided to fight harder and use every single skill I had and be as creative as I could and open-minded to reverse this dying situation one day at a time. But reverse it how? Doctors didn't know and didn't have a clue of what was causing my brain and body to shut down. And I didn't know anything about brains and bodies either. I knew about houses and design and environment and business. And then I remember the assignment, the asthma assignment. What if the causes of the hundreds of symptoms I have are not coming from within my body, but instead from the outside? Could my environment be affecting me in such a way? The idea that as we transform our environment, it transforms us in return got stronger in my mind. And since I didn't have time to lose, I decided to test it out. And so the challenge began, to observe and test every single thing getting into contact with me by eating, touching, drinking, or breathing. Using my body as a starting point, I tracked everything down to its source, to its origin. And since food is the building block of our bodies, I started by researching that first and asking all questions I could possibly imagine about the food I was eating. Who made it? What were the regulations when it was made? What was the process involved? Were there chemicals involved in that process? Were there additives, pesticides, fertilizers? What was the packaging? Was there any irradiation involved? What is it bringing into my body? How am I reacting to it? I have to say, this was a breaking point for me. The deeper I researched, the more I was amazed by how unaware I was of the myriad of human added chemicals and additives that simple everyday things carry into our bodies. I was empowered by the vision of this amazing complexity and interconnections with our surrounding environment. And at the same time, I was intrigued by the fact that everything we interact with has a history. It comes with a baggage. It carries a baggage along with it. Change started by avoiding and banning any foods with this baggage of non-beneficial components, like processed and refined foods, direct additives like colors and flavors, indirect additives that are not supposed to be in the food but are there, coming from plastic packages and wrappings and some other materials. Foods with pesticides, herbicides, synthetic fertilizers, genetically modified organisms, foods with pharmaceuticals, drinks with fluoride, and so on. And within days, the healing process began. My mind became clear again, and I could breathe through my nose, which I couldn't do for 20 years. And week by week, and change by change, I recovered my memory, my concentration, my numbers. I recognized my husband, which I know because I can find him in the crowd now. The pain disappeared, and my strength built up enough for me to go for walks to the beach, without getting lost, of course, and even surfing from time to time. Through this experience, I have come to understand the meaning of reciprocity, that in order to sustain a healthy life, we need to sustain a healthy environment. I have also become an environmentalist of my own personal little environment, the one that transforms me, the one I transform. Be an environmentalist yourself, every minute of your life, of your own environment, the one that transforms you, the one you transform. Be aware of it, be curious about it, track it down to its source, question it, take control over it, and most importantly, heal it to heal yourself. Thank you.